Welcome to my diary. I'm Tatami. Here we talk about whatever I want to, and today I want to talk about how I've noticed that a lot of people seem to eagerly await slip ups from Black Lives Matter so that they can dismiss the entire organization, the entire movement, the entire idea, I guess, of police reform and fixing the issue of cops shooting unarmed people, often killing them or seriously injuring them for life, and not ever having to face any consequences for this, especially if the person just ends up disabled, damaged. They definitely don't get anything then. And it's still a fight and a struggle if the person dies. So, yeah, we have this situation where people eagerly wait for things like Black Lives Matter, maybe accosting the wrong person, seeming to be too vague about what they're angry about, not having as much cohesiveness. I've seen people dismiss the whole movement because of that. I've seen people call Black Lives Matter terrorism, which is wild to me. The KKK isn't even officially labeled a hate group, a terrorist organization, and they've literally killed thousands of people. Thousands upon thousands of people, and they're not considered terrorists. But Black Lives Matter, with not a single death like this to their name, is somehow terrorism. It's so interesting to me how quickly people get labeled as terrorists when school shooters haven't been labeled terrorists. There hasn't been like this epidemic of like labeling that as some kind of terrorism, even though it's basically domestic terrorism. And it definitely has a kill count, and that kill count is mostly children and teachers. But somehow Black Lives Matter is terrorism. And a lot of the crimes associated with Black Lives Matter aren't really even Black Lives Matter every time. We have issues where Black Lives Matter gets blamed for riots where things catch on fire and they get blamed for looting. People who show up to burn the buildings have by and large been proven to have nothing to do with civil rights, have nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. These people often are just trying to create a scene more. They are sometimes, a rogue affiliate of Antifa, and, just working on their own accord through that, or anarchists. They also do tend to show up to events. We saw them at, Occupy. These people, when things occur, especially when Black movements start to get, traction, other people start to attach themselves to it with their causes. And often those causes do relate in vain to what Black people are going through, such as police violence or certain forms of classism and oppression, etc. And sometimes they have nothing to do with it. They're just trying to use the energy for themselves, use the movement for themselves. That's why you see people often remake Black slogans and Black hashtags for themselves and their movements. And you also see them use our music, our spirituals, our even rap, hip hop, funk music, a lot of different types of music of Black movements gets co-opted and reused. Even Trump will often play, Black music that at one time in the 70s was used for a very different purpose and created for very different reason. He'll use this music at his events, you know what I mean, at his rallies, what have you. So you do see a lot of people just kind of take it as if it's theirs and use it. And then because they are co-opting or attaching themselves, then Black Lives Matter is somehow responsible. We're responsible because we were marching for somebody who got shot 7 times. We were responsible because we started this rally and maybe it got out of control. It's always somehow, the blame is never on the fact of the situation, the root problem of poverty, the root problem of over-policing, the root problem of killing people who are unarmed continuously. And a lot of the time, they're either Black or they're lower class or they're both. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of usually that. It's usually they're people of color, they're lower class, there's some kind of minority value to them, they're lower class. That's the lower class is the minority thing too. So that's the levels of oppression we have here. And so it's very wild to me that we have so many people so eager to just drop this issue of police oppression because they see things from individuals within a movement that you keep ignoring. That's what I was saying before. You keep ignoring the movement when it's peaceful. You wait until it's violent and then you condemn the violence instead of going to the point, which was, how does this all keep happening? Why do there keep being movements in the streets? Why are people out here protesting? They're protesting for the USPS. They're protesting for the Black Lives Matter. They're protesting because they don't have anything. There are people out there protesting because they're broken. There's evictions, right? There were people outside of their city halls and other places because they want a moratorium on evictions. They want somewhere, some kind of help. They need some kind of help. We've got protests for all sorts of things. All of these are going down. All of these are very crazy. People are going wild just trying to make points because it feels like even though you're getting progressively louder, progressively wilder, the fact that something instigated it, that is never the worst thing. The getting shot 7 times in your back is never the worst thing. The getting kneeled on your neck is rarely ever the worst thing to these people. The worst thing is the buildings. The worst thing is the aftermath. The worst thing is like what you do afterwards. And you have to continually prove yourself to be the most perfect of human, to be the most eligible in all the ways, to never have a temper, to always be, trying to do things the best of the best ways, even as you face the most grimy of opponents who are willing to go so far below the belt, they're willing to kill you, literally. And you have to always be this perfect angel. And if you at any point even yell at the wrong person, that's terrorism now, because they were looking this whole time to find a way to label you as just this angry Black person terrorist. You're trying to change things too much, terrorist. And then that way they can dismiss the whole problem as not really a problem, even though it's clearly a problem. The original problem is still a problem, even if you see rioting. The original problem is still a problem, even if you see looting. The problem of poverty is still a problem, even if you see looting. The problem of, racism is still a problem. It's still a problem. The systemic issue is still a problem, even if you see people acting out, people who can't handle themselves, people who don't know how to express themselves, and people who are losing it. We're going to keep seeing people lose it. I called this. I was like, the fact that we're not getting help out here, you're going to just keep seeing Americans lose it. They're going to just keep losing it in weird little ways, and we're going to be like, that didn't quite make sense. And that's just going to keep on happening because people are losing it. And I do think that there's a lot of energy going on with the Black Lives Matter movement with all of these recent deaths in the pandemic. We have the Breonna Taylor, we have Ahmaud Arbery, we have the Floyd, we have so many, and it just keeps like racking up, and people are here to witness it. And the issue is that the news gives a equal time play to both the murder and very random little instances that, by and large, are just not equal. You know what I mean? Like, by and large, a lot of these are just not equal. But then they get played up as though they are, and they get equal playing time. Those riots, even though the burning buildings, they just kept replaying the same burning buildings because they didn't really have 30 minutes of footage from clips of all of these different places all over America. They just kind of had these 1-2 minutes of clips that they just kept replaying and replaying, even at the same time as thousands more hours of peaceful marches were occurring all around them, hours and hours. So it's just interesting to me, and I really feel like it says more about people themselves that they're looking so hard to dismiss Black Lives Matter, that they spend all this time just looking to find those things. And it's not as hard, like I said, the mainstream media will absolutely upplay those things and ignore hours and hours, because peaceful protests, they aren't that interesting. People are always like, why don't you march for Chicago? Chicago has marches all the time. Those just aren't interesting. They don't show up for those because it's just a peaceful march. What's to say? They don't care. The mainstream media isn't here to tell you the news. It's just here to get you the views. So it will play what it thinks will give you the views. It will play that thing over and over and over actually replacing it with real different news every day, because that's what gets them views. That's what gets them the ratings. That's what they're after. It's not about the news. You know what I mean? It's about making money. Same with, was it Disney? Someone who worked for Disney who was saying, like, we're not about making like art, we're making movies to make the money. And if at the same time we happen to make art, that's great. But that wasn't what we were here for. And that's really how all of this really is the exact same way here. So basically, yeah, that's just what I wanted to say. I wanted to say that I think I see a lot of people who are clearly just looking for an excuse to dismiss the issue of police violence. especially police violence against Black people, and they're trying to associate random other people, like, and be like, oh, well, this person did something wrong, so that means that maybe the police are right about, like, you know what I mean? And then people are crying like tears over buildings, and then they won't cry those same tears over an actual life lost. Like, this person still has their life. This other person, like, now these kids don't have a dad, now these people don't have this, now they don't have a livelihood, now all these things, their parents are going to have to spend years in court fighting for maybe something, in which is coming out of the city budget anyway, you know what I mean? And nobody's talking about the fact that the police hemorrhage money, the postal service, so that's what we got to be all mad at. But meanwhile, the cops don't turn a profit, and they out here just they do having to pay people out because they're so eager, gun trigger happy, that they will absolutely empty their gun into somebody's back. It's wild. That's all I wanted to say on this. I'm just really saddened to see so many people want to dismiss a very real issue of police violence so easily, so readily. They won't even give, like, it's never a good excuse. It's never a good excuse. It's literally like, this is how I know they're terrorists. This is how I know that this is like the wrong thing, and this is why I don't care about that movement. And it's like, this, but someone literally got shot earlier today. Somebody literally got shot yesterday. Somebody literally almost died or did die. You know what I'm saying? We have all these people who, like, have literally died, and nobody's really gone to jail, and then we had to fight, and then 2 months later somebody went to jail. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's real issues here, and you eagerly swivel to this other one, even though this is a real bloody issue. This is a real issue that needs looking at. You know, it's the same with, like, Trump, though. There's a real coronavirus issue, but he will talk about sharks, about flushing toilets, about anything else except for focusing on what is the real scary issue that is on everybody's mind. All right, thank you for watching. May your ancestors and spirit guides be with you at every crossroads, and I'll see you next time.